Morning class. This is Bell-Janowick. I'm your instructor for English 122 with Southern New Hampshire University. And as we had discussed in the announcement video that I posted on Monday, I wanted to follow up with you guys today regarding your Mind Edge materials and talk to you a little bit about audience, context, and purpose, and I'm going to take that a little bit further into tone, okay? So as you guys saw in Mind Edge, when you did your Mind Edge readings, sections 1.05 through 1.07 dealt with audience and context. The example of audience, you saw a woman teaching little kids how to wash their hands, right? So what does audience mean? That means who are you writing to? I want you to think about your audience as not only the person who might be reading your paper, and in our case that's me because I'm your instructor and I'm going to read that and grade that, but I also want you to think about audience as your peers, okay? Anybody who's in the class with you now, anybody who's ever been in any class with you before in college, anybody who might ever be in class with you hereafter, any instructor you've ever had, and any classmate or peer you may ever have in college. That is a general academic audience, okay? And you need to adopt a tone and make word choices and use language that speaks to that general academic audience, all right? And you see, as we move into context, there are some examples in Mind Edge. One is a woman has written an essay defending her right to smoke in a public place and stating that someone who asked her not to smoke around their child was being rude, okay? We see another essay that talks about airport security and what a hassle it is for the family to sit in line at airport security. We know that the context of those situations has changed since then, right? We don't really see standing in line for airport security as the same kind of hassles we used to because we understand the safety hazards. Smoking in public places, that's pretty much been outlawed throughout most of the country, right? And we understand the risks of smoke to secondhand smokers, and we would now think that this lady smoking around that baby is the one who was being extremely rude, right? Whereas in the context when she wrote that piece, she was an individual who had a right, and she was exercising her right, and it was rude for someone else to infringe upon that right. So when we take a look at context and we look at the different rhetorical situations, different reasons people have been writing in the past, we see that the approach is going to change depending on the context. So you guys might think, what does this have to do with me? Right? I'm not writing to 1978. I'm not writing to 1983 or 1997. I'm writing now. Well, let's take that and look at some real-life situations and see how your context might change, okay? Let's say that you are writing a letter, okay, or a memo or a report to your boss about something that happened at work on that particular day. The information that you're going to choose to put into that memo or report is going to be based on the working context and the working situation, right? The tone that you adopt and the language that you use when you speak to your boss and your company. It's going to be more professional than if you go home and you talk to your spouse, your kids, your mom, your best friend about the same situation, okay? When you're speaking on a more personal level and you're telling the same story, you're going to include different details. Now it's about you and your day, and you're going to tell a different story, right? So the context is going to change depending on your audience, okay? However, the purpose didn't necessarily change. The purpose was still to inform your boss about what happened and convey important information, and the purpose was to tell your friend, your spouse, your kids, your mother about what happened and convey pertinent information. So your purpose might remain the same despite the fact that your audience and your context might change, okay? Let's think about if you had a situation where a fracking bill was being proposed in your town, okay? You decide that you're going to write an essay to the town council, and it's going to be presented in an open town meeting where any individual in town is going to attend and hear your essay read. What kind of information are you going to choose to include about fracking, right? We're talking with individuals and lawmakers in your town who are going to decide upon the fate of people who actually live there. And you're talking to people who are going to vote, and they're going to vote in their children's interests and in their family's interests. So you're going to use different language, and you're going to use different examples and information in this particular essay to your town council than you would if you were writing an essay to the company that was proposing to bring fracking into your town, right? When you're talking to the town council and to other community members, you're going to think about things like health, the effects on family and children, your own drinking water. You're going to think about things that are going to affect people on a human level. And you're going to use pathos, which is an emotional appeal, to speak to people individually, okay? In the essay to the company that's proposing fracking, you're going to choose different details to talk about, right? You might think about economics. You might think about things like tourism and how fracking industry in your town is going to negatively affect the overall economic impact that it has on your community, okay? So you're going to be choosing different details. You're going to be taking a different approach. You're going to use a more academic, professional tone when you're speaking with the professionals than you would if you were sitting down and talking to your neighbor and explaining to them that fracking is probably not a good idea, right? Okay? You're choosing different details and you're taking a different approach. And when you speak with the company and the town from an economic perspective, you're going to be using what we call logos, which is logic, right? And you're going to try to include statistics and data and facts and take a more economic approach, where if you were talking with that town council, you would be using a more humanistic approach. Not to say that statistics and data can't serve the same humanistic perspective, but you would use them in a different tone and in a different way and try to connect with the emotional appeal, okay? So if we think about different audiences, right, we see that we're going to approach different writing situations in different contexts, okay, even though they still might serve the same purpose. Now, the important part for you guys is when you get to that purpose part, because your purpose for writing essays for me or for any other college essay is going to be the assignment prompt. The prompt tells you your purpose for writing, okay? So next week, you guys are going to take a look at the prompt for your narrative essay. All right? We're going to see what the purpose is for you writing that narrative. I'm going to make another video. We'll sit down. We'll go through that prompt together in close detail. All right? And after you've figured out your purpose for that narrative, you're going to decide on your approach. And you're going to decide on your topic. And you're going to sit down and you're going to generate ideas, which is something else our Mind Edge has been talking about this week. Okay? And you want your idea to fit the purpose and to fit the tone, right? And then after we have done some generating ideas and we've came up with a topic, we're going to talk about a thesis statement. So next week you're going to get probably 3 videos from me, your regular announcement. We're going to go through the prompt. We're going to talk about generating ideas, okay, for your topic, for your narrative, and then we're going to talk about that thesis statement. So again, if you guys have any questions, any concerns, anything you want to talk about, please feel free to drop me an email. That is t.janowick, JANOWICK, @snhu.edu. I look forward to hearing from you guys. Have a great day.